Welcome to SomaliDispatch.com. There is an ongoing debate over who is in control of Somaliland's airspace these days, Somalia or Somaliland. The topic came to light last week when a Fly Dubai plane to Hargeisa was turned back by the Somali Federal Government Aviation Authority due to that country's ban of its airspace in an effort to limit the spread of COVID-19. Subsequently, other flights to Hargeisa, including Ethiopian airline flights, were cancelled. Somaliland Civil Aviation Authority criticized the move, reiterating their control over the country's airspace. 2 days later, the Ethiopian Airways resumed its regularly scheduled flights to Hargeisa. In order to get clarification on the issue, we contacted Mr. Ahmed Dalal Farah, a former Director General of Ministry of Civil Aviation and Air Transport, now called Somaliland Civil Aviation and Airports Management. Ahmed, welcome to Somali Dispatch.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Ahmed, can you tell us, or maybe even explain to us, the current situation of civil aviation in Somaliland?
Well, civil aviation in the former Somalia for the past 30 years has been in a very divided situation. I don't want to go to the details of that, but since the new federal government came in with aggressive policy in terms of centralizing every institution, they have also made the same attempt to the joint steering committee that was established by the former interim governments of South Somalia, and because of the reasons the international community has delisted the interim government to a federal government system. So although the constitution of Somalia is still under writing, but there's still the central government is grabbing a lot of authorities that are within the federal member states and also Somaliland, which includes the civil aviation. So there has been a quite conducive environment in terms of administering the civil aviation of former Somalia airspace vis-a-vis Somalia, Somaliland.
So to dive into the current situation further, how independent is Somaliland's civil aviation since Somalia, as you asserted, that Somalia is expanding its powers in that regard? Where does Somaliland civil aviation currently sit?
Well, just to give you a little bit of background, before the current government came in power, there was an agreement between Somaliland and the former governments of Somalia to jointly manage and slowly transfer powers into the hands of Somalis. And we had a steering committee that consisted of 2 members from South Somalia and 1 member from Somaliland, with the UN having 2 members, one from UNDP, one from ICAO. Until June of 2015, I believe, on the last assessment that was made by ICAO to the situation of Carcass, there was a plan by the steering committee to establish a non-political institution that will allow both parties to manage on a mutual basis. However, the new government took advantage and directly using the pillar of sovereignty, directly requested the United States, when Mrs. Clinton was Minister of Foreign Affairs, and invited Hassan Sheikh to come to the United States to also allow the airspace to come back to Somalia. And that's where unilaterally the UN has transferred the process of the airspace, which I still believe is still a process under which the government of Somalia is getting prepared in terms of capacity building, in terms of human resource management, and in terms of airport management. Now, the issue of independence of Somalia's airspace. In a democratic nation, after 1944, the entire world came together in Chicago, and they had a convention to depoliticize the airspace management from the lessons learned in World War II, when every president executive powers ban certain, airlines airlines to overbus a country because they don't like that country. So the international community of airlines and airspace management came together to establish a COW and also made clear that airspace should be depoliticized. When I say depoliticized, it means that a country with more than 2 international airports should always manage those airports in consultation when they are doing certain policy decisions, whether it is for health reasons or for other reasons, when they want to close the utilization of the airport. And when you say airport, it's not only the ground, it's also the overbus. When you're closing it, because most of the overbus airline users, the reason they are busing over your country is because in case of an emergency landing, those airports would have the facility for them to help them in those emergencies. So if you put your airports restriction for some reason, the FISS, now called the former CACAS, has no direct authority but a consultation with the airport managers to instruct them to put a no time. No time means notice for airmen that the airports are closed. So FISS, which is the Flight Information System for Somalia, can put that request to the airport managers in Mogadishu, in Hargeisa, and in Berbera, because those are the 3 international airlines. If the Hargeisa and Berbera airport managers and the air traffic controllers, ATC, do not agree with FISS and they don't put a no time, that means Somaliland airports are still under its own control. The only space that they cannot control is the overbus. And the overbus is with the instruction of the FISS that provides information when every airline is providing information plan from the departing airports.
So the question is, Ahmed, sorry to interject, but the question is, does the Somali federal government currently have the right to either allow or deny flights in overpass capacity?
I said in a democratic society how the Chicago Convention is administered is there is no dictatorship business in the airspace. FISS, federal government, should be working with the airport managers in consultation. So if the airport manager in Hargeisa or Berbera refuses to accept that means that airport is still operating.
But what about the overpass capacity? What about the overpass capacity? If a plane that's, let's say, going to Djibouti wants to overpass Somaliland's airspace, which jurisdiction would that fall under?
Well, it will fall under the jurisdiction of Somalia. Remember, there is only one FIR for the entire country, whether it's Somaliland and Somalia. It's like the area code for telephones. 252 is used by Somaliland and Somalia. But the question is, the airspace is managed into 2 layers. The first layer is the airspace, 20,000 above the ground. It is overbus. Yes. That is always under FISS.
And Somalia
so FISS, if they put, yes, with the technical assistance of a COW still, because they have not been transferred 100%.
Okay, so they don't have full control of even the overpass. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty and what's going on currently. There has been flights that have been cancelled by both Somalia and Somaliland. The question arose when certain flights were able to land. For example, the Ethiopian Airlines is able to land in Hargeisa, but other airplanes are not allowed to land. Under whose command is that?
This is a specific cases you are talking about. When Somalia politically decided to close the airports, and it was announced by the Minister of Civil Aviation and Transport and Civil Aviation, they did it under the understanding that when FISS puts a no time in Mogadishu, that Hargeisa and Berbera will also put a no time. But Hargeisa and Berbera did not put no time for their airports to be closed. So practically, although Somalia has announced it, the two airports under the Somaliland territory and authority is still functioning. And that is the reason why Ethiopian Airlines won the argument that as long as it is a scheduled flight and they have passengers that have got bookings for going and coming out, unless the airport is closed, they are obliged to go and pick up those passengers. And the government of Somalia was saying, no, we closed it. They said, but there's no time in Hargeisa Airport. There's no time. The Arabia or Flight Dubai, before it reached the approach, they were communicated from the FISS and they were told that they closed it because of the coronavirus. And they took it in face value. But frankly speaking, Al Arabia and Flight Dubai have also violated the international law. When the airport is open, they had to pick up the passengers that had a booking to and from. So the Somaliland Airport Authority has got the power to either penalize or withdraw the license from them because they violated and took a political decision.
Okay, that's an option, but the authorization for them to either land or fly from Hargeisa is given by whom?
In terms of regulatory, it's FISS. But in terms of entering and processing those instructions, it is the airport manager of that particular airport to the ATC, the air traffic controller. So if FISS instructions were not followed by Hargeisa and Perpaba airport managers, ATC still operates an open airport, officially an open airport.
So if I hear you correctly, Ethiopian Airways is following the international law by continuing to fly to Hargeisa and back because that airport is still open to them, and the Somali government tried to stop that and couldn't based on the international law of aviation.
This is Chicago Convention. This is, there are presidencies. In 1942, when World War II, every president that did not like the other president banned the airlines to overpass. And that was difficult because airspace cannot be politicized. That's why in 1944, the pairs of ICAO and also the rules for airlines were established to depoliticize, and the powers were given to the airport managers. Look at America. The United States of America has got 50 states. Each state might have 2-3 airports. Do you think that FAA will just, make a decision and say, I'll close the airport? Not without the consultation of the airport managers. And these airport managers are authorities with a board, functioning board, that they can disagree or agree.
Okay. Wouldn't one be able to assume that the current Somaliland government and its civil aviation authority would know the international rules regarding this matter? And if they do, why wouldn't they exercise that right?
Well, I'm only speaking as a person, former DG, who really studied the 19 manuals that have regulated the airspace for any country. I don't want to respond on behalf of somebody else. You can ask that question to them.
So, what are the current plans, to your knowledge, of international flights that used to land in both Berbera and Hargeisa continuing their flights, barring that the Hargeisa or the Somaliland Authority allows them?
Well, the President, His Excellency Musa Bihi Abdi, has nominated a national committee, ministerial committee, for addressing issues of the coronavirus. Tonight, they have issued a new instruction that all borders and land, sea, and everything will be closed, with a specific administering of the airspace on airline basis, passenger by passenger. So it is the government of Somaliland. If they close that airport, they could instruct their airport managers and ATC to put a no time. Then other airlines then are not allowed to come in, including Ethiopian Airlines. But as long as they don't put a no time, then I believe the airport will be open, and those airlines who are following the international laws of Chicago Convention will follow the rules.
Thank you very much. That was Ahmed, Dalal, Farah shedding some light on aviation issues between Somaliland and Somalia. My name is Abdikadir Gulet. Until next time, take good care.